You're listening to No Plot, Only Lore, a podcast about games and the tables we play them at. Your DMs tonight and every night are Josh and Chris. You can find us on all podcast platforms or check us out at noplotonlylore.com. If you like what you hear today, please rate and review the show and share it with everyone you've ever met.
Welcome back to No Plot, Only Lore. This week brought to you by Josh's other job. Taps, for when you need game stuff. Do you guys actually have like a motto? Is that...
No. No. You know what? It's never occurred to us that we would need anything other than just like the name of the friggin' store. Because we don't advertise. We don't purchase advertising. We have Facebook, an Instagram, and a website. And that's about it.
This week also brought to you by Warp 1 Comics and Games. Back when I was working at Warp 1.
Yeah.
I did ask Dave about like what we did for advertising or like what we were looking at doing for advertising. Because like everything that I did was word of mouth.
Right.
Like, and that's usually true for the game industry as a whole.
Yeah.
But like everything that I was doing was just like people would tell their friends, they would come in for the tournaments. That's why I was so like focused on making sure that like events were happening all the time. Which was like a huge departure from the previous management of the game center. But yeah, like getting that word of mouth was really big. And he told me that they used to do radio ads and TV spots.
I have to see one of those.
He did not have an example of the TV spot, but like knowing Dave's personality, they were magical.
I would give anything to find one of those. I can't even imagine how you advertise the concept of Magic the Gathering. Like,
yeah, no, it was because I think they were mostly advertising on the comics side of things,
right?
Like at the time, Warp 2 was much more comic focused, and like I think they had just opened Warp 3. And like that's the mall outlet location, right? So you got to make sure that you got all your like brand new comic books and your trade paperbacks and stuff, and then you might have like a little bit of games in the background.
Yeah, because this would have been what, like the late 16th, 17th century or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah, I started at Warp in 2007.
Yeah.
And was there until 2013.
And his spots must have been like in the 90s. Like,
must have been, yeah. Because like he talked about them as though they were ancient history.
Yeah.
And yeah, but he said that they actually got the best return off of TV ads.
Oh,
they're just so expensive to make. Right? Like if they were going to continue to do ads, they would have done TV spots, but just too expensive. And then radio just did nothing. So you're welcome, Dave. The internet equivalent of the radio says you should maybe shop at Warp 1 occasionally.
But the other half of us says you should definitely just shop at Taps instead. We don't have comics, but boy howdy do we have everything else that Warp doesn't at better prices.
I mean, I haven't been to Warp since I moved to Victoria, so like I have no idea what's going on over there, but they'll always have a place in my heart. Yeah,
no, I like, don't get me wrong, both myself and one of the current owners of Taps have a long history with Warp. Going back to, I first started going to Warp the end of high school.
Yeah.
So about 2002 probably was my first time. Maybe even a little bit earlier than that. Like that was my first exposure to miniatures games was at Warp 1. And from there, like I went across the street to their friends over at White Knight and played a lot of Mech Warrior and Mage Knight there. Yeah, like they're still an Edmonton institution for sure. But they are, I think, a lot more broadly focused. Like we don't carry comics, we don't carry manga, right. Whatever. We do have, I will say this, no one else in town does Warhammer like we do Warhammer. Not even GW themselves. We are better priced, we have a better selection, and we carry the web-only orders that GW stores won't. And we ship free over $100. So, there.
So my first experience with game stores was a very small shop in Stettler that was run by a local guy who turned out to be a good friend of mine years later. But whenever we would discuss like shops that were bigger, shops that were cooler, if he wanted to expand, that sort of thing, the thing he would always say is, I want to be like Warp 1.
Yeah.
Right, like that was the direction in which he placed his prayer mat, was pointing to Warp 1. And so when I got to Edmonton, it was one of my first stops.
Yeah.
Right, like I didn't go to Edmonton very often, so like when I moved there for the first time, it was like, cool, I'm gonna find this place.
Yeah.
And so I found the place, and it was great. And then I ended up working there for a long time. But like the direction that I laid my prayer mat was Sentry Box in Calgary. So,
right.
I was trying to make the Warp 1 Games Center as much like Sentry Box as I could.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, our early on when TAP started, it was a small thing. You look at Warp 1, especially having a lot of guys come from there. Brian in particular.
I mean, one of the owners worked there, right? Like,
yeah. But you're right. Like, we looked at Sentry Box initially for where we wanted to go with things. And now we look at places in the States, frankly.
Oh, yeah.
We've gone down to
Red Hat.
Yeah. We make the annual pilgrimage to Gamma and talk with people there. And there's some of the ideas of what they're doing
there every single year.
Yeah. We have straight up stolen some of their ideas because it's like, if we want to be at the next level, that's what we got to do. There's some fellows out of Texas and Seattle that we look to emulate. But frankly, I mean, a lot of the direction has started coming from the companies themselves for the sort of a vision of how they want you to run your business in the future. I mean, if you look at now, being a Wizards premium Play Network store, you've got certain standards that they hold you to now. Things as simple as uniforms and a consistent look for the store.
Right.
Accessibility features for all the players there. Where before it was, comic shops used to be kind of the smelly cave sort of layer of retail. These days, with bigger companies like Hasbro owning these brands, they want a better image. They want a more popular global image, right? So,
did I ever tell you about the first time I got like an international response to working at Warp 1?
No.
So I went to Gen Con a few times while I was working at Warp. And one of the things that you do when you're in Indianapolis, I guess like the first time, I don't know why I chose to do this, because like the convention was happening and I could have just gone entirely convention based, but I was like, I kind of want to see what like the Indianapolis scene is like for like comics and game stores. And so my girlfriend and I went into a little shop in Indianapolis, and as I was browsing around, she was talking to the guy at the counter and just chatting away for a little bit, and she was like, oh yeah, no, my boyfriend also works at a comic shop. And the guy's like, oh cool, where? She says Warp 1, and he went, oh, them. Because this was like 2012, so it was like a few years after like the Nathan Fillion explosion happened, where like one of the guys who doesn't work at Warp anymore and like doesn't even want to step foot in the store anymore pissed off Nathan Fillion and ended up like causing a ruckus, nearly
causing an international incident.
Yeah, and so that was the thing that I was famous for
being associated with a jerk
comic shop. Yeah, because that's how I got my job, right? Like,
yeah.
Right after that ruckus, the guy that was running the game center before me wrote a response to Nathan Fillion and caused like another ruckus to happen.
Oh no!
So they had to let him go, and so I just kind of like swooped in and took a spot. That is a story for another day, though, and I don't want to.
I can't believe they didn't back him up.
I absolutely understand why they didn't. I know the guy.
Yeah.
He's a great dude. He totally has like no hard feelings about this at all. Like when I talked to him about it, he was like, "Oh yeah, no, I fucked up."
Yeah, I should not have done that.
Said anything. Yeah, like my blog didn't need that much attention. But yeah, no. So that's how I got my job. Was Nathan Fillion caused a bunch of bomb threats. So let's talk about gifts.
Yeah, let's talk about gifts. We're deep in our holiday arc here, and it's unfortunately too fast approaching.
So if everything goes according to plan, this episode should be launching right before Christmas, like the weekend before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wanted to discuss like last minute holiday shopping for your gamer nerd.
Yeah.
So this one might not be like aimed at our usual audience of people who are already gamer nerds. This is like, if you want some ideas for stuff that you could get somebody this weekend to like stuff a stocking, just like shoot this at your people who don't necessarily get it. I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, everyone's got, like the stockings often get left for the last minute, but everyone's got someone in their lives who stumps them when it comes to gift giving. Yeah. So I know I am very proactive about just being like, hey, just buy me this, please.
Do you have a list?
I don't maintain like a huge list. Like, I'm pretty easygoing. I'm like, hey, just like, give me a gift card or whatever for like a place that I like. Right. But I will put like a few specific like board games or something on there that I know we already have in stock. I just kind of cheat the system. Because look, they mean well. They're never gonna get it 100%. They're trying their darnest. I know I'm not difficult to buy for. It's just unfamiliar territory,
My folks usually pick up like one gift for like Thor and me.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so like, and it's never at Christmas. It's always sometime between Christmas and March, because both of our birthdays are in March.
Okay, yeah.
And so like somewhere in between there, we get like our combination birthday Christmas gift.
Right.
And then the only other person who gets me a gift is Thor.
Right. And he understands.
Yeah. So for him, I have a list.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, here's something I can send to your mom so that she has an idea of like where to steer you.
Right.
So that we don't end up with like a bunch of candles. Not that I hate candles, but it's not a thing that I'm necessarily looking for my Christmas.
Listen, I'm recently big on candles, so
I really like scented candles, but I'm so particular about scents that I just need to buy them myself.
Oh, that's fair. I just like fruit flavors. I'm not eating the candles, anybody. In case you're concerned.
He's just licking them.
They're so tasty. No, I like a fruit scent. So that's good enough for me if it's vaguely tropical.
I like spicy scents.
Okay.
And like if I'm going food based, it's usually more of like a vanilla coffee direction.
Okay.
But like those are so easy to get wrong, where like you pick up a coffee candle and it just smells like bitter ass. It says coffee on the thing, but it's just it doesn't smell anything like coffee.
Bitter ass was my wrestling name in high school.
All right. So what is your go-to gift for gamers?
I mean, the kind of gifts that I buy. All right. Here's Josh lore. I would say that gift giving is one of my love languages, and I am the kind of person who really values like getting someone something that is like super meaningful to them. It's highly tailored. I don't really do default gifts, if that makes sense. Not in like a dickish way. I just don't. But if I need something small, that's when I will have the standbys. So for the board gamers in my life, I go for the Oink games that are like $20 to $30, and they're like barely bigger than a deck of cards, and they fit nicely in a stocking. For the role players in my life, it's dice. It's always dice. It's always dice.
There will never be a time where you get dice for a gamer, like for somebody who plays role-playing games, and they go, "Oh, I already had enough of these."
Yeah, no.
There are never enough shiny math rocks.
Yeah, if they ever say, "Oh no, I'm good," you need to like check and make sure they haven't been replaced by some sort of invasive alien parasite.
My Father's Day gift this year from my son was a set of dice from a D3 to a D30 with every step in between.
Yeah.
And I have exactly 0 uses for most of these dice.
But you wanted them.
But I wanted them. And I'm so happy I have them. And I have been imagining things that I can do with them ever since I got them.
Yeah.
Right? Like I keep coming up with like new mechanics that I can use for like D&D games, where it's just like, cool. You know what would be great for that? A D14.
So I didn't realize that it was something that I wanted like that. I got a set very much like that, with one exception. So we ordered some in that had like the standard array like that, except they also came with a D100. And I didn't know I wanted a D100 until I held one in my hand, and I was like, this is all I ever want to roll.
I don't like them.
Oh, I love them. I love them so much.
I get annoyed with them because they take so long to resolve. You're just rolling a golf ball and then waiting.
Yeah.
And actually, I think a golf ball stops rolling faster.
But that's what I love about it, is that like the best I can liken it to is like on Wheel of Fortune when they spin the wheel and you just have to wait for it to come to a rest.
Right.
The normal dice are that tension resolves too quickly.
So what we need for Josh is like dice with enough sides that the die takes like minutes to roll.
Yeah.
I can't handle that shit. I'm after efficiency on my games in a lot of cases. So like you've played with me. I play very fast.
Yes, you do.
Right. Like my resolutions of things happen very, very quickly, and I like to keep the game moving as fast as I can. Waiting for a D100 to stop rolling instead of the 2D10 that I could roll and instantaneously know what my result is, unacceptable. Can't do it.
I don't want to know right away. I want you to like sweat the results. Like, oh, it's spinning past what I want. Oh no, there goes the 100. Oh no.
You know what we need to do? We need to get like your dice tray on like a little gyroscope or something.
Oh yeah.
So that it like tilts and moves with the weight of the dice.
Want to just like never come to a rest then?
Maybe. Or maybe it would just take like the entire session to figure out your first roll.
Actually, that idea would probably irritate Keith so much. I think it's worth doing.
Merry Christmas, Keith.
Merry Christmas, Keith. This campaign might be done this year. Like we've been
the thing that I love about
we've been mathing out like how much is left in the campaign, and every time we talk about how many more sessions we have, it adds another session.
The thing that I love about dice too is that like you can buy a set of dice that's just very generic.
Yeah.
But if you want to, you can get really deep into like thinking about like these colors represent you, the type of like, is it sparkly or is it matte? Is it like swirls or is it just straight color, right? Is it frosted? Right? There's so many variations on dice that you can get really into the weeds about like why you picked that specific set for that specific person.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So I was one of those people who did not believe in the idea of like, oh, each character needs their own set of dice or whatever. I'm starting to come around on that. Now, I will say most of the dice I have now for me are just like, these are dice for me as a person, not like my character. Mm-hmm. But I definitely, having like inadvertently used specific dice for specific characters, I've tricked myself into like feeling a certain way about certain dice.
Okay.
Like I bought these ones that have pandas inside. And I was using them almost exclusively for my monk character. And then he died. And I haven't rolled them since.
Oh no, your poor pandas. They're so lonely.
I didn't mean to do that. It just also coincided with when I started getting some like sharp edge resin dice in, stuff like that, right? So then I was like, well, these are better dice because they're, you know, they're not tumbled. Tumbled are inconsistent and mm-hmm. you know, whatever the elitist math guy says. But yeah, now having like looked back at it recently when I was like looking at some of the new dice we had and I'm like, oh, these are pretty. I should get some of these. And then I was like talking myself out of it because I was like, no, I can't spend all of my money on dice that are like fairly similar, blah, blah, blah. And then that's when I sort of realized that like, oh yeah, like I associate that set of dice with that character. And that's why I haven't been using them because I was trying to figure out why I had so many dice I wasn't rolling.
Right. See, for me, my dice are often communal dice. Right, like because I'm a forever DM and a lot of the players that I play with are new, most of the time my dice end up getting shared around.
Yeah.
And I am also a firm believer in dice bag hell.
Oh.
Where if a die has been underperforming for me for a consistent amount of time, it goes to hell and it dies.
I see.
So having a specific set of dice for a specific character will be great until they start rolling poorly and I have to banish them.
So, I have a different approach to my underperforming dice, and my thought process is that they need to recharge. All of their mojo has been sucked out, and they need some time to rest.
So, but you just like put them in the moon, like Emily from NADPOD?
No, I'm not quite that weird. But like, okay, so I got myself a large leather sectioned dice bag with like a flat bottom so that I can stand it upright and look through the different sections. And I'm just going to crack it open right now to remind myself. So I've got different compartments that are used for specific things. Which also, a dice bag like this would make a great gift at Christmas.
It does, yeah.
So I've got my section for all of my metal dice. I've got a section for all of my hard-edged resin dice. I've got a section for complete sets of tumbled dice of various sorts that I'm just, for whatever reason, not really using, but I would be very comfortable with just lending a complete set to someone. If they're just like, oh, I need a set of dice tonight, I'm like, here you go, here's a matching set. Because matching is important to me for complicated reasons.
A lot of players. Like, there seems to be something that is very inherent to human nature that a matching set of dice is just better than a mismatched set.
Yeah.
And I have never been able to really like define what that is. There's just some like ethereal thing that lives in our bones about the vibes of your dice. That like if the vibes are off, it's no.
So I have, speaking of vibes, I have a set of, I have 5 sets of these dwarven runic dice that are like a halfway point between like sharp edge dice and fully tumbled Chessex dice. They're just like a better quality, somewhat tumbled die. And those ones, I feel like for whatever reason, are like the dice I use when I really care about playing good.
I need good rolls.
It's time to buckle down. We're gonna get serious. Out comes the dwarven runes, because dwarves are serious.
That scene from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where Uncle Phil is failing at pool,
right?
And then tells the butler to break out Lucille.
Yeah,
where it's just like, yeah, now it's time to be serious about pool because I have been sharking you fuckers.
So I have, hold on, I got a couple more compartments here.
Oh God.
So I have a compartment for sets of, basically like my kids' sets of dice that like I don't really care about, but I want to keep as complete sets that I wouldn't, they're fine for children. I wouldn't put them onto a real player.
Okay.
There is one compartment that is just etc. Because at one point I bought a pound of dice, and then I have just acquired other miscellaneous loose dice. So everything etc. goes into that one pocket, and that's where I go for, I don't know, just basically I use them as like counters for stuff. If I need to track something, I can take a random die from there and not feel bad that I'm pulling it out of a set. And then finally, we have a section full of, it's like etc., except it's all D20s. The etc. section has no D20s. The other section is all D20s. That were at one point used as filler in a bamboo plant vase.
Oh,
like I took out all the I took out all the rocks and replaced them with D20s because I didn't care about them.
Okay,
and actually, it looked pretty cool. And then I killed a bamboo plant because they don't like the cold.
Oh,
as it turns out.
Sense. I mean, that's weird to me because I've got like bamboo all up along the side of my house, and it is kind of cold right now, and the bamboo is just like, fuck you, we're growing anyway.
Well, it's kind of cold, but like this was like Edmonton cold where it hit like -40 on the glass.
Oh, yeah, that's a different cold.
Yeah.
Okay, so dice bags, obviously a big thing for you.
Well, this one is, yeah.
Yeah. I usually default to like a pencil case, but if somebody were to get me like a really nice dice bag, I would probably really appreciate that. I don't necessarily need one that's like compartmentalized, but I've definitely seen some good ones. Thor's mom used to make chainmail dice bags.
Oh, yeah.
Which were great. I don't know if she's still doing it, but yeah, we actually used to sell them at the store too. And you can get like all sorts of different sizes of dice bags for things, like all sorts of different materials.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like leather.
Oh, really?
I do not like leather dice bags.
Interesting.
I find that they wear really poorly.
Oh, I see.
Right, like they start to scuff on the outside. They start to look kind of rough around the edges, and then you start getting fraying where the stitching is.
Okay.
So they don't last as long as I would like. I would generally go for like a really nice cloth.
Mm-hmm.
Something woven. Like I have seen some really nice like crocheted and knitted dice bags. So if you're looking to make a gift, right, knitting a dice bag, you've only got like 3 days, but like you can do it. It's just a sock with a drawstring. And then like the chainmail or the metals or like cases work as well. I can maybe see leather if it was like a big case like yours, right?
Yeah, so mine is very big, and that I think actually helps with the wear and tear on the sides of it. So one, there is like a slight like felt-like liner, like a microfiber. That's what I'm looking for. So that definitely helps with the like rubbing against the leather itself, and two, just having that extra surface area really means like you're not getting so much of like those hard edges pressing against the leather. I've been using this thing for months with no sign of any real wear and tear.
Okay. How do you feel about dice cups?
I used to use one, and I don't like them anymore.
Okay.
Okay, like they're fine if you're rolling a very limited number of dice. How
many dice do you need that you can't fit them all in a cup?
You ever cast Fireball? Like
I'm a DM, so no.
Exactly. Exactly. 8d6 is a fistful to fit into a cup. It really does not work well, especially when you're casting it more than once. I sent you the photo. I don't know if I brought this up, but in our last session, I oopsies accidentally triggered 4 simultaneous fireballs. So
yeah, you did send me some pictures.
Yeah, so that's a lot of dice to roll at once.
It is a lot of dice.
I've gone through phases. It started with cups. I still have one dwarven rune etched leather cup around here somewhere.
Okay, but I think that like for the amount of dice that you were rolling, you would have needed like a mixing bowl.
Well, I was gonna say
that was a lot of fucking dice.
It was 32d6.
That's too many dice.
Which is really fun to roll all at once.
Yes,
but I started with cup. Cup was okay, and then I found that like maybe it was just like the size of my particular cup, but even when I was just rolling like because I don't know if you do this, but like we tend to do the thing where you roll attack and damage like at the same time just to speed things up.
Right.
So
I prefer to separate them just for the tension on the damage, but I get it.
Oh, now who's the one who's a proponent of tension? Okay. So I even just having 3 or 4 dice in there just felt like crowded. So then I switched to dice towers, and I had a nice little portable one that I used for quite a while. It was one of those like balsa wood kind of pressed together dealies. And that was great. I tried that. I tried a couple of other variants. And then I now almost exclusively just use a dice tray. Just a good quality dice tray. Chuck them in there. Yeah. You're fine.
Honestly, I don't use any of those things. Right, like I own a dice cup.
Yeah.
I own a dice tower.
Yeah.
I own multiple dice trays, and I still just roll with my hand onto the table.
See, and the dice tray is almost like that, except you can corral them, which is important when you're rolling 8d6 or more.
I just always forget to bring one.
Yeah, fair. And see, mine, I don't know what kind yours are. I've got like the ones that can just like snap together and they fold flat. And so I just unfold them and slide it into my bag like another book. Just a very thin
Mine's like
book.
A little octagon of wooden walls.
Yeah.
With like a felt on the bottom. And so like if I remember to bring it, it's great. But I often do not.
Yeah, I think the fact that mine is just like a fold flat piece of equipment that just pops in between my, my player's handbook and my other items that we will talk about later in this episode.
Dice towers, I always find so like I think dice towers make a fun gift. I don't know if they're the most useful gift.
No,
right? Like a dice tower is something that you open up and you go, "Whoa, cool, dice tower!" And then you play with it for a little while, and then you realize that rolling dice in a dice tower actually kind of sucks.
Yeah,
because like part of the thing with dice towers is that you're waiting for your dice to come down through the thing, and you don't even get the fun of watching it roll.
I had one that was clear, and I could watch them roll, and it sucked because it used a series of like tilting steps, and so basically anything smaller than a d20 would roll a couple of times and then come to a stop in the middle of the tower.
Gross.
It was really obnoxious.
That is really obnoxious. Yeah, no, I tend to shy away from using dice towers, unless they're like really simple ones.
Yeah,
or like you can get the ones that are like they're less than 6 inches tall.
Yeah,
they have like a couple of platforms in them that are solid, and rolling the dice takes about as much time as it does to roll them by hand. Those are the ones that I would maybe consider for gifts, but they don't carry that same wow factor of like this is a dice tower that is 3 feet tall and like has a small team of Oompa Loompas inside throwing your dice around, right? Like,
well, what's funny is that you're basically exactly describing the dice tower that I did use for quite a while, where it was like 6 inches tall, 2 platforms, bing, bang, boom, done. And I'd had a part of it that just folded out to make a little tray to catch the dice on the bottom. So it was always like super quick and efficient, and yeah.
And then dice boxes are kind of an interesting like departure from like dice cups and trays and things, or like even a dice bag. Or, like one of the things that I've seen that I kind of like is like a dice box that is also a dice tray.
Yeah.
Right. So you open it up, you have all of your dice in the top, you pick the dice up, you roll them in the bottom, and then you've got your tray there. I find them kind of limiting.
Yeah.
Like, I'm bringing a garbage bag of dice with me to whatever function I'm doing, so I'm going to need a lot of space, and I don't always have that. But if you're doing that thing where you have like one set of dice for your character,
right?
Perfect.
Yeah. So
absolutely perfect.
We have been selling a product. There's a couple products that we've been selling that I don't think they're good for me, but they might actually solve this problem for a lot of people. There's one that is kind of a combination snap together dice tower and dice tray with storage for 3 full sets of dice in the top. I think that gives you enough space that like the people who aren't complete goblins yet will be fine.
I like the yet because they will be.
Yeah, no, it's coming. It's coming. But
it's even like people that I know that only like touched on gaming for a while still end up being dice goblins.
Yep.
In my experience.
Yep. It's just inevitable because they're pretty. They're designed to be enticing.
Yep.
And then there's another one that we made that was kind of in the same vein, except it had like an octagon in the center of it as a dice tray, and then like a trough around the outside to hold dice.
Okay.
Yeah. Not my favorite form factor, but
yeah. I'm having trouble visualizing it, but yeah, I think I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
What about books?
Oh, hold on.
We talked about dice.
And one more.
Okay, you still got dice things.
One more dice thing. So these now, I'm not the biggest fan of these for reasons that I think will be pretty obvious, but there are sets out there that people can buy now that come with like a specific shaped like holder for the whole set. It's like It's meant to be like this very nice little present that, you know, is like heart shaped and wooden or what have you, and has like there's a set that actually I think it was the 50th anniversary edition for D&D that had nice metal dice, and then that also came with like this little rectangle that would hold them all together in specific patterns. Right. Some of those I've seen them from like, was it Wormwood, Elderwood Academy, and a couple of other places make them. Forged Gaming makes a very nice set for Valentine's. I think if you know that your partner is the kind of person who can tolerate one set for everything, they're nice.
I think those are cute gifts.
Yeah.
But like sometimes a gift doesn't have to be useful.
True.
Right? Like sometimes you get a set of dice, not because you're planning to use those dice for the campaign, but just to have them.
Yeah.
Right. It's a pretty set of dice that was a thoughtful gift from a partner or friend. And that's good enough.
Yeah. So in that same vein, we actually now carry, there are circular like holders like that are like those compartmentalized 7-die holders, but they're in like a softer neoprene with a variety of fun colors. Not neoprene, that's the wrong word. Just soft like rubber, I guess. And I think they're cool, and they're great for transporting one set of dice. If you can make that kind of commitment to a character where it's like, these are the dice that I only roll and I don't need anything else, I think Lou on Dimension 20 came to the defense of that mode of thinking. Great. Those things are a great option, and they're
often to
cheap.
his detriment.
Yes.
You will often continue to roll a die that has been doing him dirty the entire season, just because of a misplaced sense of loyalty to his dice. To dice bag hell every single time.
Were you ever the person who like destroyed dice?
No, I've never destroyed a die on purpose.
Okay.
I have had some dice break on me. There was a set of dice that I bought that were made out of beef bone.
Oh yeah, fragile.
And they just kind of fell apart.
Yeah, they desiccate for sure.
Yeah, that is another option on the dice line of things. Like we've been talking about dice for a long time, but like this is the semi-precious stone dice or like the precious stone dice that they put out there. I remember we carried one in the store for a while that was made out of woolly mammoth ivory.
Ooh.
And another that was made out of meteorite, and the one that was like meteorite was like $300.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, it was just like a tiny, tiny little D20, but it was made out of space rock, and that's dope. So like if you're looking for a high end die, like that's another fun thing with dice is that they just kind of run the gamut from like this set cost me $3 on the internet to this single die cost $600.
Yeah. I'd say if you are going to get gemstone dice, be very careful where you source them from, because some are definitely not meant to be rolled. They are showpieces.
Yeah, and I made sure with the mammoth ivory that like they were sourced from like the guy who was making them. A friend of his had a plot of land that turned out to be a mammoth graveyard.
Oh my god!
And so like he was doing some surveying for something, found all of these mammoths, called the state, and was like, "Hey, what do I have to do about all of these mammoth like skulls that are on my property?" And they're like, "There's so many of them in this neighborhood, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we have whatever so many mammoths.
Just get rid of them." So like, yeah, we definitely had like a couple of chats before I brought it in about like you didn't just kill an elephant.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't like poached ivory dice or anything. But yeah, no, it was legit.
Your blood math rocks.
I'm sure you could get some.
Oh, 100%.
Like apartheid emerald dice.
Yeah, I think that's a set Musk uses.
Elon Musk. Yeah. All right, let's talk about books.
Yeah, let's talk about books.
I think that the good folks at Wizards of the Coast fucked up.
Okay, yeah, 100%. Why?
Because they missed another opportunity to put out all 3 core books before Christmas.
Yeah, it is baffling to me, the release schedule they've decided to go with for these new books. They are missing a window of opportunity unlike any other, in a way that I didn't think was possible for a company that likes money to screw up that badly.
Like, I get that you want to have your books come out in a sustainable schedule, but like, get them out before Christmas.
Yeah.
Get them out before Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, selling that sleeved box set of core books. Oh, man.
And if you have to stagger the release like they're doing, which I don't really understand why they're doing it, but if you have to do it, speed it up. Get them out before Christmas. If they're starting in September, they should be out by Christmas.
But we're going to have to wait until February for the last book.
For inexplicable reasons.
Yeah. So right now you can get like the new player's handbook, which as far as I can tell seems like a worthy investment.
You know what? I was skeptical when they initially announced it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it just for like experimentation purposes. And it's okay. I'm not going to comment on the mechanics per se. I think there's arguments to be made one way or the other. I don't like some of the changes they've made. I'm not going to abide by some of them. Other ones I think are great, and I'm going to use that version exclusively. But I will say, this set of books is almost perfectly organized in a way that, like, I want every one of their publications to be. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of the care that was put into organizing the 4th edition books for clarity of communication and like, not like visual style, but like information organizational style.
Right.
It's very, very smart in that regard.
So I haven't picked any of them up yet.
Okay.
Which I realize is a personal failing of mine. Although, if any of our dedicated listeners would like to buy me some Christmas presents, it's on my list. So I haven't picked them up yet. I've still been working out of the 5th edition books. And actually, my next campaign is going to be Mouse Guard, so I don't even really need D&D books just yet. But they're on my list for stuff that I am going to be picking up once we have all of them out.
Sure.
Right. So like, even if our dedicated listeners don't buy me some books, they are going to end up on my shelves eventually.
Yeah, and I've picked up the 2 that are out already.
Yeah. And I should. And I'm probably going to put them on my Christmas list for Thor.
Sure.
And actually, because our Christmas and birthday gift comes in sometime between now and March, maybe I'll just have my parents buy us all 3.
There you go.
Yeah. What up, Mom and Dad? You don't listen to this podcast, even though for a long time we were saying this was my mom's favorite podcast. Yeah. That's kind of the only books that I would ever buy as a gift.
Okay.
Core books.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're going to buy novels, there are much better novels that you could be picking up that are fantasy that aren't tie-ins to D&D.
Okay.
Adventures are so incredibly specific to who is running them and who they're running it with.
Yeah.
That just like picking any random adventure off of a shelf and giving it to somebody as a gift almost feels like gifting them an obligation.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yay, you can run this for us.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, DM. You get responsibility. So yeah, not a huge one on that. And then splat books. I pick up splat books based on interest in specific information.
Right.
Right. It's never something that I pick up on a whim. It's always like, this is a thing that I need to know more about. So that's why I go out and pick up that book. So I've never been given a splat book as a gift, and I feel like my reaction to it would be middling.
Okay. I think the gifting of books is really only intended... Okay, sorry. I think there's 2 ways to do it. The first one I'm thinking of is just give them to DMs and only DMs. And it's whatever the most recent splat book is. If I was a DM and someone was like, hey, the new book about dragons is out, and they gave that to me as a gift, I'd be like, awesome. I fucking love dragons. Right?
Yeah, fair.
Right? The other type that you could do is you give them like... So there's a whole... Obviously, D&D is not the only RPG in the world. But there's a whole, like, section of RPGs that are meant to be smaller, more digestible, quicker to run, less serious, that I think make great stocking stuffers. So the example specifically that I'm thinking of, we have one in now that people are really vibing with. It doesn't do it for me, but it comes in a small form book that's like $40. It's called Morkborg.
Oh yeah. Morkborg is very popular.
Yeah. People are loving it. We are running something called a meat grinder event where people are going to have various characters come in and they're probably going to die fast. And we have bought a physical meat grinder to put your miniature through.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like beer and pretzels games can be good gifts, especially if they're like gag type games.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it now, but like I know that's one of the big reasons that people used to pick up Kobolds Ate My Baby.
Yeah.
It's just like it was something that you could stuff in a stocking. It only cost like a few dollars. And like it's just a silly fun game that you can play that doesn't require a lot of prep. And there are other games like that out there, especially in the indie field.
Yeah. I think you buy something like that with the intention, like, buy it with intentionality. Like, hey, we are having a get-together around the holiday season. Here is your early stocking stuffer present. By the way, we're running a Morkborg one-shot, or whatever it is.
Yeah. The one that I always think would be a lot of fun to give or get as a gift is 316 Carnage Among the Stars.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's just like, kill as many bugs as you can and discover your backstory through flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like you zero character prep, really. Very little prep on the DM's part as well. You're just sending waves of bugs at people. And then you get to have a fun role-playing experience, like right out of the box.
Yeah. Other suggestions, there's one here called Tea Time Adventures. Okay. There's also this, and I know this isn't technically a book, but we've actually got it in our book section because we feel it kind of fits in that same thing, but Alice is Missing.
Yeah.
That's it, and
Alice
it's
is Missing.
definitely the right size for a stocking. Tea Time Adventures.
That one is, again,
sorry,
like, Alice is Missing is, again, very intentionality.
Yeah.
Like, you need to have the right audience for that.
Yeah.
You don't want to pick that up on a whim for, like, somebody who doesn't really care about role-playing games as a generality. This is for somebody... This is for your pretentious Christopher friend.
Yeah.
You don't want to pick this up for a Josh.
Yeah, whereas Tea Time Adventures, it is a non-violent role-playing game full of heartwarming magic, baked goods, and a tea pairing for every adventure.
I love it.
Yeah. It's like a combination of RPG setting and like cookbook. Like it literally there's a recipe for biscuits. Like
amazing.
Yeah, right on. And it's all set in basically what looks like the Wind in the Willows. So
oh good.
Yeah. You know, I don't want to call it like I want to use the phrase digestible content like that.
Right. Well, like I think core books are kind of where I draw the line there, right? Like, because core D&D books for sure, but also like core books for other games are fine.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you pick up a copy of Fate for somebody, that's a cool gift.
Yeah.
Right. If you pick up like Kids on Bikes or whatever for somebody, that's a fun gift. Right. It's just like if you're picking up like one book about one vampire house for Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
That might fall flat if the person doesn't own Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah. That's a know your audience kind of gift there.
Yeah. You don't want to pick up like Ghoul for Vampire and then just kind of hope that they have that one.
Yeah. It's really hard to gift a copy of Thirsty Sword Lesbians, Advanced Lovers and Lesbians without knowing for sure that that's that person's jam.
You take that.
I say that because we have that book for sale without the core books.
Oh.
Is
it selling?
No.
Oh
no. Yeah, we fucked up. I don't know.
Probably get some core books.
Or we just get rid of those 2 expansion books because we have had no demand. No one's come in being like, hey, I've heard of this RPG. Anyways. Books are fraud.
Books can be fraud. But again, like keep it to the core books.
Yeah.
Right? Like, keep it to something that's actually got like crunchy game materials in it for something that's kind of self-contained.
Yeah. Self-contained is the big one.
Self-contained is the big one. So I have a bunch of like gear.
Yeah, let's talk about gear.
Here. Yeah, let's talk about gear. How do you feel about DM screens as a gift?
Boy, howdy, do I have conflicted feelings. On the one hand, there are some very fancy products like Dragon Shield's RPG Game Master Companion, which is a combination of DM screen and like holding case for miniatures and dice, and like it's one of those fancy DM screens that has like slots where you can slide in pages to have like a dry erase cover over it. It's like elastics to hold things like your phone, and a tracker on the top to use for initiative, and like all sorts of like just cool extra kit that your DM can use. That being said, I find like DMs I know are at the point right now where they have like 2 or 3 screens. Why? Mm-hmm. There's no good reason. People keep getting them ones that are cool. I got my buddy one that had cool art on it, and he used it for a long time. And then someone else made him a big wooden one that had magnets in it to hold papers up. And now mine doesn't get used anymore. Right?
Your gift got one-upped?
Well, kind of, yeah. Like, they're so essential to the task that when you start DMing, you buy one immediately.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right? And then you don't really need another one ever unless someone gets you this pimped out deluxeified version. Right?
Yeah, I feel like you never need more than one DM screen, and the DM screen doesn't have to have anything on it.
No, I still use the same one that I've used since the start of 4th edition. Is any of that information relevant? Nah.
Nope.
Sometimes I look at some of like the random tables and I'm like, oh, that's a random thing that could happen. Cool. But that's it. But like, would I even want one of these like deluxe companion kits? Maybe, but I'm not like transporting my full DM. Maybe if you know like the kind of DM who runs casual events and travels to DM at other like various locations a lot, this would be really handy for them. But most of the DMs I know,
if you have somebody that's like, they always play at their house.
Yeah.
Right. Like if they've got like a dedicated space for it, then yeah, having one of these like big swanky DM screens with all the fixins makes sense.
Well, like this one in particular is really good
that around.
For like, this one is like designed to like bring the stuff you need for that session with you. But all the DMs I know, or most of them anyways, they DM from their house because they've got way more stuff than they'd want to lug around the city with them. Right?
And like a lot of the DMs that I know and knew growing up had duffel bags.
Yeah.
Like you
or
just
some
got,
sort
like,
of
a hockey
briefcase
bag
or whatever.
D&D stuff.
Yeah. Like I could. Okay.
So
do you remember when I was briefly invested in trying to do that like D&D with old people kind of thing?
Yeah.
This would be good for the person hosting that to like put everything together for the session and just bring it to that location. Right? Because it's like,
that makes sense.
Yeah, he's on the go. Or there's a group that comes in and hosts D&D for like what appears to be like a middle school group at our store once a week. That DM may want to get something like this to just collect that week's stuff. But again, like you said, they often have a lot more than what fits in one of these kits that they want to bring just in case, because unfortunately the reality of an improvised game is that it can go anywhere.
Yeah, and eventually you end up with just like, okay, so I've got like Dan's can of Coke as like the pillar in this room that I had to make up because you guys refused to go in a direction that made any sense. And so you have like all of this like improvised stuff that you're doing anyway, and just like trying to plan for everything you're going to need to carry is a fool's errand.
Yeah.
Right? Like you are going to run into situations where it isn't going to be enough. And so you either bring the duffel bag or you have to make stuff up on the spot. And this is kind of like a weird middle ground for that.
Yeah.
I do love it for like somebody that is going to be stationary, right? Like they're always running it in their own place, then having all of those like bits and bobs, the sliding in papers and like the magnets and the initiative tracker and stuff. All of that is great.
Sure. On the screen itself.
Are able to entrench.
Yeah.
Right. I don't even always play with one. Right. So like it isn't a necessity, but it is a nice thing to have for sure.
Yeah, I always like having the option
doesn't have one at all
to hide information.
Yeah. If you know a DM who does not have a DM screen, fantastic gift.
Yes, but honestly, get the cheap one.
Get the cheap.
Yeah.
So I know that you and I are going to have differing opinions on this. Tokens versus miniatures.
Okay. I'm a miniatures guy. I had a lot of them. So many of them. I actually wound up selling a lot right after my... anyways, I sold a lot of them. And then I hung on to a lot for a long time. Even when I wasn't hosting games, I just couldn't let them go. Now I've donated them. You're welcome, Keith. They are actually getting used now, which is great.
Okay.
I think they enhance the experience. And in a lot of ways, even if you don't like playing with a grid board, miniatures are necessary to increase player engagement. They help communicate information about what people are facing. They help communicate information back to you and back to other players about how your characters view themselves. I think they're, at this point, indispensable. I know that's not a popular opinion.
Don't care.
Yeah.
I have a lot of experience running theater of the mind. So like I'm perfectly comfortable running combats without minis at all.
Yeah.
And when I do need minis, I am perfectly content and happy to use tokens, and sometimes happier to do so.
Yeah. I thought you might be.
a little piece of art, like a little artistic piece of paper that indicates who a person is. Easier to shuffle around, easier to move them. You don't need to have like a fishing tackle box that you bring with you to your session full of all your various minis. They are easy to hand make as well. So like if you've got a printer and a 1-inch hole punch that you can buy for $13 on Amazon, you can make your own minis, like your own little tokens. And it's a lot of fun because then you can like personalize the art and your character looks like the character art that you drew or stole from the internet somewhere. That said, I don't think tokens make a very good gift.
No,
miniatures are definitely the better gift.
With one exception, there was. We've been trying to get them back in stock, but there was, if you can find it, great. There was a set that was put out of like 75 plastic tokens that had removable and reusable stickers. Yeah. And, you know, they did have options for just like a white spot that you could draw whatever you wanted on it. But yeah, they were, you were easily able to swap in and out various types of creatures. And then, you know, that's really only important if you're using a grid. If you're going to theater of the mind, who cares, right? But yeah, I thought they were super, super helpful for a way to like visually represent miniatures with, or models, enemies. That's the word I'm looking for. Without having to resort to spending thousands and thousands of dollars on miniatures. On the other hand,
one of the things that I like about tokens too is that like you don't necessarily need to have the grid. Like you just need to have an idea of where everybody is. And so like miniatures are also perfectly acceptable for that. But like if you just need something very quick and easy to indicate where people are for stuff, you can just like throw 3 tokens on a piece of paper or on like whatever terrain you have in front of you and like situate that, and it communicates all of the information that you need. That said, miniatures are pretty.
They are so
tiny
pretty.
Little art objects. They are a fun craft because you also usually have to paint them yourself. They are personalized and customizable, and for so many reasons, miniatures make better presents than tokens.
So I will say this. This idea that you have to paint them yourself has really only come about in the, like, all of my stuff was pre-painted. You can still buy them that way, but you have to buy them blind, which understand that if you buy an unpainted miniature, you're buying someone a new hobby. And they may not appreciate it later, or their significant other might not appreciate it, or their bank account might not appreciate it.
Their bank account definitely won't.
Because if you get them into painting miniatures, you are like not even half a step away from introducing them to Games Workshop and Warhammer. And that is, honestly, that should be a type of like financial assault charge or something.
That is financial terrorism.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like painting minis sometimes.
Yeah.
I like painting minis with friends.
Yes.
Like if we're all just like hanging out and painting together. It's a lot of fun. I don't usually paint my minis. Like usually I just leave them white and blank. Because again, I give 0 shits. And I'm perfectly happy to use a little round piece of paper. So like the fact that I have a mini is indicating that I'm trying harder than usual. But my kid loves minis.
Yeah.
Loves them. And one of his favorite gifts is the big ones, right? Like the dragons and the like the titans and all of the like huge, really intricate minis. They make great gifts because they're just like a tiny statue that you also get to paint.
Yeah.
That you also get to put on your table and be like, cool, we're facing this now. And it makes a really satisfying thunk.
Yeah, I will say, like, despite getting rid of all of my small miniatures, I kept all of my large dragons. So, like, my colossal red and my large black and large blue, icing death, stuff like that. Yeah, they are, like, at this point, I don't view them as, like, game accessories. They're, like, home decor.
Right.
I doubt I will ever get rid of them unless, like, I'm in an absolutely desperate situation financially.
There is nothing funnier to me than watching Thor put one of his colossal minis into a bag to lug to school.
Yep.
so that he can use that in his like D&D club.
Yep.
So it's just like he's got his backpack on. His backpack is a giant D20. He's got like a shopping bag that is full of like lumpy spikes.
What's happening over there, buddy? Nothing.
And like, if he gets in with the wrong teacher, they're going to be like, "Why are you carrying a weapon?" And like, he can't deny that. You could definitely use some of these as weapons.
Yeah, 100%. This thing could hurt somebody, but yeah, if you're gonna buy minis, go big. I mean, minis. Honestly, minis themselves not an awesome gift because I think a lot of people very much like picking out their minis, but the blind blister packs of them, I think, are a great gift. They're like
I like blind packs for all sorts of things.
Yeah,
because I didn't even know what I got you.
Yeah.
Surprise for everyone!
Hooray! And they're like under $20.
Yeah. Battle mats versus terrain.
Why not both? No, I'm not a terrain guy. I'm a battle mat guy. I'm a battle mat and a wet erase marker kind of guy. Let's quickly sketch something up. Frankly, sometimes we don't even do that. Keith has invested, and I used to have some too, of like dungeon tiles, where it's just like, here's a bunch of gray squares that you can like remix into rooms or whatever. And so sometimes we'll just like slap some of those on the table for like a really quick encounter. I love, like, we when we play, there is always just a blank battle mat in front of us just in case something happens, and sometimes we'll still theater of the mind it, but at least it's there to like give us a rough idea of where everyone started, right? And then we can.
One important thing to note with battle mats: wet erase markers, not dry erase.
Yes.
Always, always, always wet erase, not dry erase. Dry erase will stick to your mats. So if you are getting the markers as well, please be sure you're getting the wet erase markers. I think it would be hilarious if I just went in exactly the opposite direction and was like, it's got to be like really detailed terrain and like the 3D part of it. Because like I was just talking about using like little flat tokens. Yeah, I don't care.
I gotta put this white sticker on top of my 3D house.
Yeah, I'm just going to take this like tiny black and white printed image, and I'm going to put it on top of like this absolutely gorgeously rendered sculpture of terrain and be like, that's good enough. No, I'm very much battle mats.
I think terrain is for wargaming, and this is not that.
Yeah. Terrain I can see for like climactic battles, but it isn't something that I'm going to be getting as a gift, right? Like, this isn't something that I'm going to be giving to somebody in the hopes that they may use it someday in the future. It's something that like I would very specifically be picking up pieces for to get across the importance of whatever this combat is.
Yeah, like it feels like for me, using terrain is something that you like. Honestly, you kind of do it as like the big finale to your campaign. Like, all right, we spent years working on this. We finally made it to Vecna's lair or whatever is going on. Now, this is what that looks like. You've made it into the throne room. Now it's time to like be rewarded for your hard work.
Paper mache planets or whatever.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. So no, generally speaking, like battle mats aren't cheap.
No, they are not.
Right? Like a battle mat is actually like a really solid gift in general, just because like they tend to run in like the $50 range. And like the bigger ones get real expensive.
Yeah, I would say like, so I just helped a DM friend of mine pick one up. If you're just looking for something that's like 2 feet by 3 feet, they're not that bad. It's like $30. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything larger and it immediately just spirals out of control.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them that are like the size of a couple of ping pong tables put together.
Yeah.
And yeah, they end up running like $100, $115, $20.
I would say you absolutely do not need a 4x6 tables worth of battle mat to run your D&D campaign.
Speak for yourself, sir.
Well, I am speaking for myself.
I like that real estate.
Yeah.
To be able to
I can understand the use case for it, where you're like, hey, I'm going to just draw the entire dungeon on here. And then you're going to reveal what happens as we go or whatever. Maybe you cover part of it up with paper or something, but yeah, not on your life.
When I was doing those big actual play events, having all of that room was really important.
For what?
We had so many players that needed to be represented on the map.
All right.
That anything smaller starts to get really crowded, and the tactical decision making that can happen in there is cool. I can't actually get past all of these people through the doors. So yeah, having a lot of space, not necessarily a 4 foot by 6 foot battle mat, but having more space than you would get out of a 2 by 3.
Yeah, that's fair.
One of my favorite gifts to get and receive as a player and as a DM is good stationery.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I
love stationery.
Okay. So I was going to say I don't write anything down. That's not strictly true. I write some things down. But what I have started doing, and this was because I saw someone else doing it, I thought it was a cool idea. I no longer just have a character sheet and then, maybe a couple scraps of paper for notes or whatever. I've started buying, you can buy these books essentially that come with maybe 5 characters worth of character sheet copies. And then they've just got extra pages in for those characters that have space for notes or space for items, or even the one I bought has a chunk of it that's got grid paper for mapping.
Right.
And it all contains itself nicely in a little bound notebook that was $15 on Amazon.
Right.
I think they're great.
When I say good stationery, my definition of good stationery is probably different than a lot of people's.
Okay.
My favorite books to get are Hilroy spiral bound notebooks. They have a graph paper version.
Mm-hmm.
They are delightful.
I see.
And the quality of the paper is good. They drink ink real nice. They are okay for penciling. The graph paper version is perfectly suitable for mapping, and for doodling and coming up with all sorts of ideation stuff. Mm-hmm. And you get 300 pages for a few bucks.
Yeah.
My favorite pencils of all time are the little Bic mechanical pencils in 0.7.
The shitty plastic ones?
Yeah, love them.
Oh man.
Absolutely adore them. They are, every time I'm in Staples, I end up buying another pack of them.
Actually, I should see what I have here. I've got, okay, we're kind of the opposite on it. It's not that I don't appreciate good stationery. It's that all of the stationery that I have just sort of acquired through my employment career.
Right.
All of my favorite things from a job, when I leave, I will take with me. So I've got the 0.7s, but mine are a series of Papermate pencils. I've got a bunch of them. I use them for everything, for D&D purposes, that is. I like the Papermate ones. I've got a couple of the Bic ones in here. I find they're a little skinny. Unless you get the ones that have the little textured rubbery type grip on the end. I find the Bic, I find the Bics too small. I have big dumb guy hands. So actually,
I used to catch shit in art school for my pencil choice because I would often go with the Bic pencils, and it was all form factor, right? I would actually replace the leads with higher quality lead.
Mm-hmm.
Because HB is absolute bullshit for drawing.
Oh yeah.
So you want to get a good B. I would usually replace them with a 2B lead.
You've lost me, but that's okay.
Okay. I would occasionally catch shit for just using what was obviously a subpar pencil,
right,
for artistic stuff. But I love the form factor, and they are comfortable in my hand, and they are consistent, and That's what I like about them.
It sounds like you kind of build yourself like the sleeper car of pencils.
Like a little bit. Like, okay, so
this is like my 1996 Ford Windstar that I secretly swapped a small block 405 into, and then
well, like the lead is like the quality of the lead is from light and blue tinged to dark and red tinged. So like anything on the B range is dark and red tinged. Anything on the H range is harder and lighter and a little bit blue.
Boy, it all looks great to me.
Yeah. You start to see the differences when your like nose is an inch away from them for 6 hours a day. But so yeah, like replacing the lead was mostly just like I needed a lead that was more tuned for drawing.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I like about those Bic pencils is that you take the eraser off of the back and you just dump out all the lead and you can put whatever lead you want in there.
That actually does help, yeah.
Yeah. It's great. And then I don't have to worry about losing like a $32 architect's pencil or whatever.
It's like buying a Honda Civic because they're easy to tune.
Yeah. Yeah, just replacing the engine with something that goes. I don't car.
Yeah, listen, I only car in so much as I worked in the industry for several years, but do I know anything about them? No,
I know nothing about car. I don't even have a driver's license yet. Yeah, but no, for stationery, like nerds in my experience tend to be picky about their stationery. It isn't necessarily that they're looking for the stuff that costs the most, which makes them really easy to buy for sometimes.
True.
Right, like if you want to make my entire day, you just show up with like a case of those Hilroy notebooks. I'm set. I'm good for like the year.
Okay, but I think the problem with that is that, like, I guess, you know what? You know your nerd better than anyone else does. You know, obviously, like, you have your own particularities. Be a better friend or partner and do some research on your nerd and find out what they like. Don't take our word.
Even just like watch what they're writing in.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if they show up with like a campus notebook, then you go find campus notebooks.
Yeah.
Right? If they're specifically writing with a brand of pen or pencil, then do your best to find that brand of pen or pencil.
If they're like me and they just take whatever fits in their hand, you know, with no real care for its performance other than it doesn't cause me to cramp after 10 minutes.
Finding things that are going to fit in your hands is like a tall order.
Was that a tall joke?
Yeah, sure.
So there's a product I want to talk about here that I think it falls into the stationery category, but it's a pair of products. The first is the Dragon Shield RPG Player Companion, which is this nice set of it folds like a book. Like it could sit on your shelf like a leather-bound book or something. It has a spot on the side to slide your character sheet into. And then it has a combination of dice holder and then dice tray that this book opens up and reveals. I think they're pretty nifty. Now, I carry a lot more stuff than what would fit in this, so I've got my backpack still, but they are actually big enough to like fit. From what I can tell from their imagery, you could actually fit your PHB into the dice tray and bring that whole thing with you as a solid unit. I think they're super neat, but there's a piece that goes with them that I think is really super nifty, and I use one every day. Well, not every day. Every day I'm playing. It's called the RPG Spell Codex. They come in a bunch of colors with a bunch of different arts. But the idea is you take, and this is an item that we're going to talk about later, but you take your D&D spell cards, and you've got pages in this codex that fit 4 cards each, and you use it like a wizard's tome. You slide all of your spells in there. You can flip back and forth between them. You've got the references there, and then you've also got a workspace in the front and back that for tracking spell slots and concentration and other spell effects. With with a little wet erase marker if you want. It is super neat. I full disclosure, I did not intentionally get this thing. It was left in our lost and found for a year. And finally Brian was like, "Do you want this?" And I was like, "Well, maybe, I'll take it." And someone was using it basically as a what do you call it? A binder for magic cards. They had some random shitty magic cards in there for no reason. So I got rid of those because I didn't need them. And then I was like, it sat around for a while and I like didn't really know what to do with it. And then I was like, I'm just going to try it out one day because, you know, I'm playing a sorcerer. I've got actually spells to play this time. And holy shit, it's been a game changer, an absolute game changer. So now I don't forget things like, oh, I have a rod of alertness. That does things, you know? I know, like, better players will just be like, we'll just read your friggin' character sheet. Yeah. But you know what? Shut up. If I put that information in the same spot that I see my spell slots that I have left, I don't forget it. Okay?
That's funny, because like I always put that stuff in with my equipment, and then I never look at my equipment.
Yeah, and then you forget all the cool stuff you have that can make a big difference?
Yeah, constantly.
Maybe this is the tool for you.
That sounds very ADHD friendly.
Yeah, it's great because you're just getting kind of
keeps everything like right up front.
Also, like I know there's going to be a certain brand of people who are like, oh, well, you have to organize your spell cards by like spell level. No, I don't do that. I organize my cards by what do I use all the time. So page one is Fireball, Bless, and Bestow Curse. And then immediately across from that are my spell slots and my stuff.
Okay. Neat.
Yeah, it's great.
Any other stationery that you would suggest on a regular basis?
Trying to think. Well, I'm just looking in my bag, rifling through it.
One thing I wouldn't necessarily consider a gift on the regular, but something that I have seen used and would make like a nice add-on gift is you can get 1 inch by 1 inch graph paper Post-it notes.
Ooh,
that are huge.
Those sound great.
It's like, yeah, it's like a foot by a foot, right? Like they're not like huge, but they're pretty big. And it's like a Post-it note that's just covered in squares that you can like quickly doodle on, tear off the page, slap it on the table, and you've got your map. And when you're done with it, you just crumple it up and you throw it in the recycling.
Ah, the old D&D disposable dungeon.
Yes. It's almost like a magical item, right? Like it's the book of map.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. I saw them when we were doing back to school shopping this year, and I was like, I kind of want those for me.
Yeah. You can go back to school for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to be able to afford it. Art. Do you suggest picking up art, like D&D style art, as presents?
No.
Is that a thing that's ever happened?
No, and I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
I think art is very personal in your taste, and I think this is an area fraught with danger.
Did I ever tell you about the time that Thor's mom got me art because she was mad at me?
No.
Okay. So we were at Gen Con, and every time I walked past this one artist's stall, I would look at this like flying turtle that was like flying in front of the moon, and I'd be like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen, because it's really cool.
Yeah.
And so
I get it.
It was like $400, right? Like it was an incredibly expensive original piece of art, and there was no way I was ever going to get it. But like every time we walked past it, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And then I made her really mad, and I don't remember how. But I came home from one of the days at Gen Con to find that like the original propped up in the doorway to my room. And I was like, oh my God, you didn't. Right. And I was so happy. I was like, this is like amazing that you got me this thing. Like, this is absolutely crazy. And she told me years later that she got it because she was mad at me, and it was a revenge gift. She wanted to make me feel really happy because she was so grumpy.
What on?
Like, fuck you. You get this thing. Yeah, I don't entirely understand it. And that's still hanging in my living room.
That is I wish everyone had that response to a fight with their significant other. That is
right? Go out and get a very thoughtful, beautiful gift that is meaningful to the person to make them so happy because you're grumpy about it. Yeah, no, it was a revenge painting, and I'm still happy I have it.
That is so strange. And
then the only other interaction with an artist that I remember from like the D&D sphere was do I even remember who it was? No, I had a thought and it's gone.
All right, fine. Yeah. No,
right.
I don't like the idea of gifting art because then, like, let's say the artist's style doesn't jive with you, or like, you know, as a Star Wars fan, if someone got me art from like the sequel trilogy, I would be like disappointed. You know, like I don't get.
What if somebody got you an absolutely beautifully rendered, like photorealistic painting in like military regalia, Jar Jar Binks?
Actually, I can't be down for that. I can't
lie. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it in my head, that actually looks kind of dope, like the thing that I'm imagining.
Like the full Gungan armor, dressed up as a true Bombad general.
Yeah, just like in the style of like Napoleonic War general portraits.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Love it.
Okay. No art.
Yeah. It's just it's too personal, and I think there's just too much awkward like obligation that comes with it.
Okay. What about clothing?
I think it's the same as getting any other clothing for someone. It's whatever. Who cares?
Okay. So like, if I were to get you a 6XL shirt with Dragons of Autumn Twilight's cover on it,
I mean,
it'd
be no different than anyone who got me a shirt that like didn't fit. I just wouldn't wear it.
All right.
This does not own the libs, from what I can tell.
You wouldn't feel obligated to wear the shirt in a meeting just so that I would be happy about it?
I would wear it one time just so that you knew that I wore it and appreciated that you got me a gift. That's it.
Aw. I love you too, So jewelry kind of falls under the same category.
Don't buy jewelry. It's not a good stocking stuffer. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, unless it's just like, okay, if you get like those like nerd adjacent D20 earrings or something like that, like fine, whatever. That's pretty generic. But like, just don't. Yeah, again, this comes down to people having subjective taste. Just it's not worth the. If there's not enough return on investment. It's too likely to fail.
That's fair. All right, what about cards? So we have spell cards. Spell cards are a thing that exist.
Yeah.
There are also other types of cards that I've seen. So there's like a deck of monster cards.
Yeah.
Kicking around out there. And like, I know Pathfinder put out a bunch of really cool like NPC portraits that you could pick up. Not spells, but like ability cards as well for like various classes. I don't know.
If you know the person well enough to know what they're playing, or like you're the DM in a group and you know that like, hey, we're going to be starting a new campaign and this person's going to be playing blah, blah, blah. Great. Go ahead. I don't care. But they're one of those ones where like, it's not usually a safe bet. So like, you know, they're a good gift if you are sure.
Right. I actually like sleeves as a stocking stuffer.
Oh, okay.
Because one of the things that you can just do with sleeves is put a normal playing card in it.
Yep.
And then a slip of paper that has your spell or ability information on it.
Yep.
And you can just make your own cards.
So when I said that I was using spell cards in that tome, that's what I meant.
Okay.
There's the Thieves Guild. You can just go and pick what spells you want, and then it puts it onto a PDF, and then you print the PDF. And then you cut out those cards, and I used Star Wars bases as backers, and just boop, 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 and I'm done.
Perfect. And like those, I feel like if you're going to do art, that's a cute way to do it, because it's only going to cost you a few bucks.
Yep.
And then you get like a whole bunch of like fun little dragons or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Card sleeves. And then I've got a whole category here called the weird shit.
Okay.
My favorite thing on this list is gaming stones. And the reason that they're my favorite is because they're not actually gaming stones. It's just the rocks that you put in an aquarium.
Oh, right.
And I adore them.
Okay.
Right? The little, like, they're flat on the bottom, they're round on the top. They're usually made out of glass, and they come in different colors. And if you can get an entire bucket of them in one color, I am thrilled by this.
Okay.
Because that is what I use for minions.
Okay.
Right. Whenever I'm doing like a combat that has like a huge number of mooks in it, that's what happens.
Okay.
And I just grab a whole bunch of those. Those are the minions. They don't need their own minis. They don't even deserve a token. They're not that important. They get a little round black rock. Go kill them.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you can just like pour an entire bucket of them onto the table. And like, one, you get the fun of pouring a thing onto the table and watching your players go, oh. And like, two, you get the satisfaction of just seeing like a go board where your like D&D is happening.
Yeah. I'm down with
I
that.
absolutely adore those things.
Yeah, and they're super cheap. You can just bag of them. It's like $2 at the dollar store.
Yep.
I have a suggestion. This thing I'm going to suggest kind of combines two different categories we've already talked about. Maps and miniatures. They're called Epic Encounters. They are a 5th edition compatible self-contained encounter that includes miniatures and a game mat for that encounter with a specific like area. They have a little adventure book with all of your stats. They have tips and tricks for running the encounter that work for any RPG game. And then you get to add, like this one here I'm looking at is called Swamp of the Hydra. You are fighting a Hydra. You get a big Hydra and then 20 goblin tokens. And then a little map to run it on. There's things like a goblin village or a little snake god temple. Yeah, there's a bajillion of them in various sizes. So you can always, like, you can get a bigger one if you want some of the bigger miniature, like an ice giant or something. Or you can get a smaller one where just get like a bunch of goblins. They also make something called Local Legends, which are a little like 4 or 5 miniature box set.
I've seen those
for an encounter with like wraiths or something like that. Yeah, they are great.
Yeah. Thor sometimes picks those up because he is slowly putting together a necromantic army.
Oh no!
And so like picking up like 4 different skeletons and 4 different wraiths and 4 different ghosts and whatever is kind of exactly what he's looking for minis right now.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's a good idea. A friend of mine called me up earlier this year and asked me, Christopher, would you like a mead horn? To which I responded, I'm sorry, a what? And then she sent me a photo of herself holding her new mead horn.
Okay.
And yeah, that's why I considered this for the gifts thing, because like I have never considered buying myself a mead horn before. But she saw them on Amazon and immediately decided that was a thing that we both needed and that we were going to fill them with soju and drink mightily. How do you feel about like props as gifts?
Uh, I, I'm not super into it.
No,
Like,
I kind of am.
I have too much shit as it is.
That's
I got
fair.
stuff just kicking around. Even the things that I like and want to use, there's just I got too much stuff. Um, and then you add on something like a mead horn, and it's like the least practical cup you can own.
It had to come with its own stand.
Yeah.
Because you can't put it down anywhere.
No. That's just it. Like I guess the value of that gift depends entirely on how much time you spend at Ren fairs.
Fair. I was also thinking, like, if you're the type of player who likes to get dressed up and, like, really get into the role, like, having a stein or a mead horn or, like, some prop that you can drink out of would just be, like, one extension of that. I don't know a lot of players who are into that, who are into like that side of it, but I do know a couple, and I think that they would be very into the idea of having like their own stein at the table.
Yeah, they would, but would anyone else? like unless that's your whole group's vibe, like to just be the person who brought a mead horn is pretty obnoxious.
I've never played with one of those tables, and I desperately want to.
I really truly don't.
Like, I don't necessarily think that I would want to stick around at one of those tables for a long time, but I really want to try it just once.
Okay, I could do it once. I could do one time, just for like a special event. But like that would be
watch me
so
just bounce
exhausting.
off of it, and you get like so invested.
I took a stab, at like there was a group around here called the Knights of the Northern Realm.
Right.
It turns out one of my old buddies from high school was part of it for a while. Because I was like, I kind of want to investigate trying out historical European martial arts. And that's not what they were doing. No, they were LARPing and then doing like stage fights. So I was not at all interested. But Stu and his wife at the time were really into like the costume making and all that stuff. And I just found it exhausting. Just straight up exhausting. I
have an ex-girlfriend who is a blacksmith.
Ugh.
She not like an old school blacksmith, like she's got proper like blacksmithing materials, and like the reason she learned to do it was because her dad was making shoehorns. Not shoehorns,
horseshoes?
Horseshoes. I try to forget that horses exist in the horse sphere. So yeah, like she learned how to do blacksmithing pretty early on, and like got really into the armor part of it.
Okay.
Like she really liked making scale armor. Like the first piece that she ever showed me was like a scaled gauntlet that was perfectly articulated.
Right.
Like, so she was also involved with Knights of the Northern Realm.
Yeah.
And
see, like, if that's your jam, great. But like, understand that your hobby is arts and crafts. I don't play RPGs to arts and crafts.
No. I sometimes do.
Yeah, but if you take the game out of the role-playing game,
yeah,
it loses a lot for me.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of my reason for playing role-playing games is improv theater.
Right.
So
yeah. It's hard to improv blacksmithing.
Yeah. For one thing, it ends up with a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
Which is, realistic to the times, I guess.
I mean, if you're doing improv right, there should be a lot of injuries, but
fair. So I guess that means that boffer weapons and actual weapons are kind of not on your list.
So I made a boffer spear one time.
Nice.
And then I fractured a guy's arm with it. And then I
Oh no.
did not use that ever again. I
A little too much spear, not quite enough buffer.
so like all people with undiagnosed ADHD, I went on a tangent for a month and was like, boffer and sword tag are like the coolest things ever as a like outlet for wanting to like practice HEMA. And
this will be my career.
Yeah. So I did some research and I was like, I'm fairly confident that I can make a spear because it's really not that complicated. I saw a shape for how to fold some pipe insulation into. So I went and bought PVC pipe insulation, and copper pipe to reinforce the PVC.
Oh no!
Oh yes!
Oh no!
Yeah. So
I think I see where this went wrong.
Yeah. So it's really structurally solid. Like,
yeah,
way too much. So I want to say this without sounding like a fucking dork, but there's really no way to. I'm really I was and still am really into martial arts movies, and like in particular ones that are like very accurate and stuff like that. And so I just like I went down another ADHD trail of like studying that kind of stuff and not like joining any gyms, but I did also have a friend who was one of the instructors at a kung fu school here. Went and spent some time in Shaolin. He's like that level of dork about it. And so I spent a lot of time.
Not exactly selling yourself as not a dork.
Anyways, I hung out with Mike a lot, and some stuff rubbed off a bit. But I realized that, like, for a tall person, the spear is a great weapon because it just amplifies your already natural height advantage. So I did practice that kind of stuff for a while. Why? I don't know, because I could. And so I brought it to the church youth group one night. And
oh no!
Oh yeah! And there's a guy there that we had like a mildly antagonistic relationship. Like we were friends, but he liked dicking around and to get me to like smack him or something, stuff like that. Just
he was your Gary Oak.
Yeah. So like in the past, I those like bell ringing games at the fair.
Yeah,
I took one of those and I hit him in the leg with it as he sped by me on the zip line.
Oof.
Yeah, that was a bad one. I once cracked him really hard in the ribs with a kendo sword, like a practice sword. Like
the bamboo ones, or
the bamboo ones.
Okay.
That was a bad one. Anyways, this is the kind of stuff we get up to. He wanted me to hit him in the arm with it. So instead of like thinking about this rationally and just like behaving with a modicum of restraint, I wound up full swing and hit him with a technique called the dragon's tail. Which
really not selling yourself as a not a dork about this.
So the amount of torque that you can build up on this move, which involves a like full swing around your body and coming down vertically on his arm, is pretty substantial because you wind up like leaning your whole body weight into it as it comes down.
Right. I need to like back up just a second and reiterate that you are not a small man.
No. So when we're talking about my full body weight into it, we're talking about a 6'8", 400-pound man putting his full force into one end of a copper pipe and the other end into his friend's forearm.
God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so boffer weapons are not a thing we're buying.
No. At least we'll buy ones that are fully foam with a plastic core as opposed to a little bit of foam on the outside of a copper pipe.
See, I was thinking those ones that we used to sell at Warp, like when I put the armory together, and we just had like a huge number of like boffer weapons. And like, those are fun.
Yeah, those are fine. Those are great. It's not the vibe I was going for.
No, clearly. And so like, going for actual weapons with you may also be a poor choice. But like, I definitely know some people that would super enjoy having a real sword.
Yeah.
My son.
Yep.
He doesn't get one. He really wants, like, there's a metal sword from a video game that he wants. I can't even remember which game it was. I think it's Heroes Quest. That he saw like a metal sword for it and he wants it. And I was like, I can only see this actually being used.
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is not going to be a cute decoration in his room. This is going to be a thing he plays with, and he's going to get cut or somebody else is going to get cut, and that somebody else is almost definitely going to be me.
Yeah. Yeah, don't. Listen, once my kids are grown, you're going to see me go off the rails responsibility-wise in a way that will, frankly, scare people. I will have swords, but I know that I can't have them until the kids are gone because...
Nerd midlife crises hit different. Like, we're not going to be going out and getting a convertible.
No.
We're stocking up on swords and armor and some weird shit.
Since 2003 and seeing it in White Knight, I have wanted Gandalf the White Staff that they had there.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It's so pretty.
His sword is also incredible.
Yeah, but I'm a staff and spear kind of guy.
Hey, thanks for making it all the way through this episode of No Plot Only Lore. If you're looking for more, you can always find us at noplotonlylore.com and on all the very best podcast platforms. If you like what you heard today, please share, rate, and review the show to feed my never-ending need for attention and validation.